This is Wren with my TED Talk.
Since before I was born, my mother's run a nonprofit called Drive Smart Colorado. I had been surrounded by safety information since I was tiny. She would take this information and she would go to various schools and businesses, and she would talk to them about the importance of wearing seatbelts and wearing helmets and being careful when you cross the road. I've watched enough PowerPoint videos to know to look left and then right and then left again while walking my bike with a good fitting helmet on my noggin. But she mostly focused on seatbelts and distracted driving and texting and driving, stuff like that. Since I can remember, I've been listening to 911 tapes of people involved in these kinds of crashes. Intense phone calls where there's just screaming on ends and people shaking, and you can hear horror in their voices. I remember one story of my mom's where there were these kids and they were street racing. A girl was ejected and pinned underneath her car. When all her friends got out of their respective cars, they realized she was trapped under there. They tried to lift the car off of her, and when they couldn't get it but about a foot off the ground, they had to set it back down. How horrible is that? But I'm not here to tell you that story. I'm here to tell you what my mom taught me about distracted driving. I'm here to tell you how that impacted me in a situation that we had this past summer. I'm here to tell you a story that I had heard 1,000 times. So you remember Drive Smart Colorado, my mom's nonprofit? Yeah, I'm from Colorado. So every September, I road trip out to California, but every June, I head back. I've made the drive with friends before, but usually my mom's the one who flies out so we can drive together, just so I'm just not alone for the 24-hour drive it is. We always seem to find ways to amuse ourselves. We'll take pictures of little statues, and we'll get out of the road if we see something fun. We'll make friends with the gas station employees, and we'll always get Dairy Queen, even though none of us actually like Dairy Queen, but everybody likes a chocolate dipped cone after a long drive. And this past summer was no different. So she came out in June, and we got all bundled up early that Saturday morning, and we headed out for our road trip. What seemed like forever, but also no time at all, and we had already arrived in Colorado. We were almost to my brother's house in Vail, which is about 3 hours from my house, but we were going to have dinner with him. So we're driving to Graham's house, and I remember passing through all of these towns that I've never been to, but we're still in Colorado. And so we go through Grand Junction, Parachute, Granite. I remember Granite because I was thinking, that's like a countertop. And so we were just driving through all these little towns, and I'm noticing the signs, and I had to pee. So I hopped out, and I got my gum, and did my thing, and got back in the car with my mom as we headed back out on the one-way, but two-lane highway. We're driving through I-70 like nothing had happened. I was jamming some music, and she was eating celery. And we're crest over this hill, right as she swerves out of the way of this golden truck. And I remember thinking to myself, that's bizarre. Why are they in the middle of the road? That's a weird place to park. But before I could actually get this jumbled thought process together, I realized my mom's already pulling into the median as she screams at me, call 911. And so I sit there and I think, oh, those people have been in a car crash. There's nobody around helping or stopping. There's no emergency vehicles. Nobody knows what's going on here. So I jump out of the car. My car is still running. I'm not wearing shoes. And I go investigate. I'm on the phone as I look around and I go approach the front car. It's a golden truck about normal truck size. And there's these two men in the car, and I look into the passenger side window as a man looks back at me through his bloody hands. He looks at me with the most horrified, confused gaze. It was the closest resemblance to a zombie I had ever seen, and it was obvious that he had smashed into the dashboard. She answers, 911, what is your emergency? Hi, I don't know, there's been a crash, I don't know. You've been in a car crash? No, I wasn't in a car crash. There's been a car crash. My mom and I kicked out. It doesn't matter. This is just come send people. What is your location? I don't know where I am, woman. I don't know where I am. People are finally starting to pull over and help us. I don't know where I am. Granite, like the countertop. Through the course of the phone call, I'd gone around to investigate the other car that was involved. I go around and I see this woman as she's hanging lifelessly out of her car. She wasn't breathing. The airbags covered the rest of her body, so all I could see was the top portion of her hanging outside of the window. There's a woman, she's hurt. Oh God, just come quickly. There's help on the way. Tell her there's help on the way. So there I am, holding the hands of this lifeless body, and I'm shaking, and my feet are standing on broken glass, and I'm holding her hand, telling her, it's gonna be okay, there's people coming, it's gonna be okay. I know the prevalence of ejection of people from cars who are in car crashes and not wearing seatbelts is incredibly common. There were no holes in the windshield, and so I figured nobody had been ejected, but there could be other people in the car. So meanwhile, I'm holding hands, I'm telling people that we need to look for other people inside of this vehicle. So I get around and I go and I help, with the help of a man, I break the passenger side window of this car. There's a little boy in the back seat. The door was locked, no one could get into it, so I crawl around inside there and I unlock the door, and together we start to pull him out of the car. My mom had told people up ahead that we might need blankets and anyone with medical history. So people were bringing their quilts from their car down and laying them below the boy as we're taking him out of the car and placing him on the ground. An EMT comes running up the street. He pulls off the little boy's shirt and starts immediately administering CPR. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. The boy's chest resembled something of a pillow, inflating and deflating with every single count. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. The fire trucks came and they took over with electric shocks. The authorities summoned everyone away as the scene of the action. They didn't need us. Long story short, I experienced my first double fatality that day. I pulled a dead 11-year-old boy out of a car. I held the hand of his dead mother, telling her it was going to be okay. As I was on the phone with 911, I was having flashbacks to all the 911 tapes that I had heard as a child, and I understood the shaky voices, the yelling, the confusion. I knew she was going to be like the other people in those 911 tapes. I knew that when I was holding the hand of that mother, that she wasn't going to be okay. We didn't find out what had happened until the police had collected all of the information that they needed, and the families had been notified. It was only then that we discovered that the mother of the boy had been driving eastbound. And she was driving and she got distracted and came down the median and hit the truck head on in the opposite lanes. She spun around, making it seem like they both might have been on the same way, but instead, no, she actually came down the grass median and collided with the truck. And the police weren't sure if anyone was wearing a seatbelt because the little boy was already out of the car when they had gotten there. But I knew to look for a sign of wearing a seatbelt. I crawled in there. I undid that back seat, and I know for a fact he wasn't. A seatbelt might not have saved that little boy's life, but it would have stopped him from hitting the front seat so hard that his body literally imploded. You know, driving crashes are the leading cause of death between the ages of 4 and 34 years old. The leading cause of death. Above smoking, above heart attacks, plane crashes, Ebola, measles, the things that are actually covered in the media. But this cause of death is the most preventable. And the thing is, we all get distracted. We all make those choices in the car to check the radio station, check our cell phone, have a conversation. Distractions happen. The only thing we can do to protect ourselves is buckle up. It's the best vaccine. It's buying you time at the hospital. Just buckle up. Whether you go 0.3 of a mile or you go 3,000, it doesn't matter. The moments that will catch our attention are the moments that will kill us. It's life that distracts us. It's our duty to protect that.
Thank you for listening. Maybe we should end more less abruptly.